All of us do not have equal talent, but all of us have an equal opportunity to develop our talents. A very pleasant morning to one and all present here. We appreciate you for taking your time to attend today's webinar from specialists to generalists, conducted by the Department of Computer Science, Jyotinivas College Autonomous, Bangalore. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our encouraging and beloved principal, Dr. Sister Lalita Thomas, today's speaker, Ms. Supriya Parate, IT consultant, Servian, Melbourne, Australia. I'd like to welcome the faculty of the Computer Science Department, participants, and the students. Today's webinar, From Specialist to Generalist, is a talk which gives us insight on how to shape our skills to adapt to the current industry needs. Now, I call upon Cinderella to begin today's session with a prayer. Let us bow our heads and place ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering all of us today in this important event. May you bestow your guidance and blessings on this event so that we can enjoy and appreciate its significance in our life. Bless everyone present today that each may be able to share knowledge and learn from it. Bless Dr. Sister Lalita Thomas for helping and guiding us throughout this year and also providing the opportunity to upskill ourselves. We place our resource person in your hands so that she would be able to impart effectively with God given knowledge to all of us. May she be blessed as she continues to bring her expertise to people who need them. Bless the participants as well so that they would be able to glean the vital information from this activity. May you bestow your blessings after this webinar and let everything we have learned bear fruits in our lives. This we ask in a precious name. Amen. I would now call upon Mrs. Nita Johnson, Head of Computer Science Department, to introduce the speaker for today.
Good morning, everyone. I take pride in introducing our alumni, Ms. Supriya Parate. Witnessing the progress of our alumni gave us immense gratification. Their successful journey into the professional world is an inspiration for our current students. Supriya was a student of BCA program and passed out in 2014. During her studies, she had an opportunity to do internship in Goldman Sachs, and she was placed in SAP Labs. Supriya is a versatile IT professional. She has been a software developer, BI analyst, and data engineer in her IT career of over 7 years. She started her cloud journey with Google Cloud, then moved to AWS, and now is devoted to Microsoft Azure. Throughout these roles, she had valuable exposure to the small, medium, and large enterprises across the financial, health, telecommunication, energy, and software industries. She currently leads a team of data engineers at Servian, Melbourne. She described herself as a proud JNC alumni, a generalist, and an agile believer, not just for technology teams, but as a way of life. In her talk from specialist to generalist, she would like to share exciting stories about cloud projects and learnings that shaped her career. Now, I invite Ms. Supriya Parate to take over the session. Over to you, Supriya.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm definitely feeling very emotional right now, and sorry, my cats want to join. But give me a second. I need to. Yeah. So sorry about that. Thank you so much for the wonderful welcome. And this is really a proud moment for me. And I am actually feeling a bit emotional, but let's get started with the presentation. I'll start sharing my screen and let me know if you're able to see. Are you able to see my screen? Just to check to see if I'm audible.
You're audible, but screen share is not done.
It hasn't? Okay, let me try. How about now?
No.
Which screen are you able to see? Does it say from specialist to generalist?
You can see your picture, so your video.
Okay.
Up arrow icon there, share screen option.
It is asking to stop sharing. Yeah, oh, hang on. Now, did it help? Or what I can do is send you the link of my presentation and you can share that.
Yeah. Downloading that.
Yeah. Okay, in the meantime, I'll just start with my introduction. So I started my career in computer science after completing my bachelor's of computer application from JNC. From then on, yep, that's perfect. Thank you. So after completing my bachelor's, during the last year of BCA, I started interning at Goldman Sachs. And after completing my bachelor, it paved my way to joining another product company, which was SAP Labs. Soon after joining SAP and doing a couple of data engineering projects, I moved to Melbourne to do my master's in computer science from RMIT University. And after completing 2 years of master's, I started interning at a telecommunication firm here and then started working full time in a data consultancy where I am at right now. So to begin the presentation, let's start from the slide 1. So what I will be covering in the presentation today is what career options you have got, especially in the data space. So I come from the data and analytics space, but there are many other options that you can explore. It's a really wide and very versatile industry. Then I'll move on to sharing my different experiences from different projects. And this is where I want to spend most time of the presentation because these are my learnings and I really hope that you could benefit from it. Third one, we'll talk about the skills that you can start working on from now on. And these are the skills which will take time to develop, but it will really make you stand out of the crowd when you are prepared to be interviewed and join the industry. And for this presentation, I especially included a section for women in IT, and that is because in my everyday life, even though I lived in a developed country, it takes a lot of effort and challenges in day-to-day life to navigate through a lot of, discrimination at work sort of activities. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that for maybe 5-10 minutes before moving to question and answer round. So the next slide. So this one is the website of my company, Servian, which is a data consultancy. It is Sydney and Melbourne based. They've also got a branch in India. And I've just put in this slide, not because I'm not getting any money for endorsing my company, but they've done a good job in building a website that explains the different components of the data space. So there's a link to the website, and I wish I could share that link on the screen and show you what the website looks like. But if you can, whenever you have time, scan the code and go to the website and click on every single icon which says data analytics, artificial intelligence, customer engagement, and it will show you the other options that you have got in your career for you to explore. So do take time to go through it, but where I come in at this point is data analytics, and in coming years, I will be moving to artificial intelligence and customer engagement. So these are all very closely related. All of them requires the same fundamental and foundational skills, which are interchangeable. So the next slide is about how you can get started in your career and then specialize in one particular thing and then again go back to being a generalist. So I wanted to put the title of the presentation as from specialist to generalist because because it's the way you will see the IT industry has come to be. So the way I started my career journey was as an intern at Goldman Sachs, and then becoming a web developer, and then cloud engineer, and then data engineer, and then team lead. So you can imagine in the beginning, I had diverse experience in the different aspects of the industry. Then I started focusing on one particular branch, which was data engineering. And then again, now I'm moving back from being so much specialized in data engineering to be an expertise, to have an expertise in other skills as well. And as we go through the slides and I talk about different experiences, you will understand how I went from being a generalist to specialist, and now again to generalist. So the skill set which is most desirable in the industry when you're starting your career is called the T-shaped skills. So there are basically 3 different kinds of skills. One, this is used everywhere in terms of recruitment. And the way they identify every individual as what sort of skills they have got is by these shapes. And what it means is, if you are T-shapes, that means you have got cross-discipline expertise, but you know more about one particular field. Like, for example, I come from UI design, testing, reporting in business intelligence, web development, security. But I specialize in data analytics space, which is why I then went on to become cloud engineer and then data engineer. The other 2 kinds are X and I's. So if you could move to the next slide, it shows a bit of a summary about what these skills are. I've put a link which very briefly describes what these skills are and what your thought process should be when you are. Sorry, did you say something? Yeah. So, when you click on this link, you will come up with, there's a blog which describes what these X, I, and T skills stands for and why the T skill is most desirable. And I can tell you about the situation where I deal with lots of project managers who have I skill. And what that basically is that, for example, if it is about project management, they specialize in project management. They can tell you all about budgeting of a project and how to, do the funding, how to manage a project when it is going out of the budget, or how to get a new requirement when you do have enough budget to, uplift the capabilities of the current project. But what people with I-shaped skills lack is that in this example of being a project manager, if I do not have knowledge about the other aspects, I am always dependent on a technical person in my team. So before I could make any project decision, I always have to ask a technical person on, okay, what is the estimate for this particular project? Do you think we can achieve in 2 months' time? Or do you think this budget is enough? So I won't be as capable or flexible in terms of making my own decisions if I'm very focused on one kind of career. Now, the other kind is the X-shaped skills. So X-shaped skills, meaning an individual is a good managerial candidate. That means they can look into multiple industries and bring in experts or people who have good knowledge from these industries, and they understand how these skills would fit into a team and how the team can function well. So those are the 3 different kinds of skills, and we will come back to this one later after I talk about my work experience, and we'll connect back to this slide. So moving on to the next one. So the next 2 slides, I will be talking about the different work experiences I had while I was at JNC and after that. So my very first project or internship was at Goldman Sachs. I still remember when I got the placement, there were only 4 students selected, and I do not remember the name of our placement, but I remember going back to her, giving her the greeting card because I really couldn't believe that I've made it through the last round of the interview. So, but in my entire career, when I look back to my first experience, I would say that was the worst experience in my life. And every time I think about going back to Goldman Sachs, it was such a massive learning that even today, when I'm working on anything new, I always think about how I was at Goldman Sachs. So the mistakes I did there was that because I was an intern, I was given a very small task. The task was basically to make a form using MS Access, actually, which is C# is the coding language behind it, or VBA. So my task was to create a form and then make sure that it has the right validation. If it has name or email, if the email is correct, or the format of the phone number is in the right format and all that. When I started, I think I had really high expectations of what kind of task would I be given. So I kind of lost my interest in doing the task because I felt it was not very important. And I learned 2 weeks into that project that it is not about if a task is important or not. It is about what is your attitude toward that particular task. And if you understand that how accomplishing that small task is gonna contribute in the team overall. So for me, it was a very simple, small task, but it was taking a big load out of the other team, which had to go through the same data every day and delete the rows which did not have the right kind of data. So that one small form, even though it took just 1 week to do all the coding, what was important for me to understand was that these are the requirements. This is where I'm going to contribute once I complete that task. And the other learning was that avoid working on outdated technologies, as in there were a couple of instances where I was asked to work on PHP or C#. So nowadays, looking into the industry, we are moving a bit away from the object-oriented languages like C# or Java and moving more into something like JavaScript and Python. So that would be my recommendation or advice to you, that if you have to work on an outdated technology because you're new and it's not going to be all rosy out there in the industry once you start, it is okay for you to work in outdated technologies for a while. And then once you have proven yourself, you've built the trust with the team, you can start communicating with your managers or whoever the people leader is and say, this is what your interests are, and that is where you want to head next. Next one was being a tester or a quality assurance in the SAP CRM, which is Customer Relationship Management Team. And here, my role was to test the end-to-end system, do the documentation, build a report, talk to the business stakeholders. And I did that for about 6 months. Now, the learning from that one was when you are a student, you do not like any kind of documentation work. Like, if that information is not on the Google, I don't want to sit there writing it all on my own because it is very emotionally taxing. And I really had to break that mental barrier of the fact that testing is not important or documentation is not important. In industry, once, especially in big enterprises, what will define the quality of your work is how much testing you've done on it. And second, have you described every little feature that your product covers? And the third thing is building reports. So there many situations in my life where someone has asked me to do a report in Power BI or Tableau or Excel. In the beginning, it sounds very easy. Here is your data. You just have to create a few charts in the end. But what is the most important to understand is that you need to understand what your data is in order to visualize it and create those reports. And trust me, all the business executives or senior managers, they are dependent on these reports to make any kind of decisions. So to you, it might seem like a small task, but it is contributing in a big way. The other thing in this particular work experience was being mindful of the switch from tester to developer. So I did want to move into being a developer, but I was very afraid of having that conversation with my manager, and I did not know where to begin. And I followed the same approach that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. It's that you can start with what you're not interested in, build the trust with the team, build the rapport, and then you can demand on what you want to do, and they will be more than happy to support you in most of the situations. So be mindful of how much time you're spending in doing testing. It is not unimportant, but at the same time, if your goal is to be a developer, then you need to navigate through those challenges early on in your career. The next one was web development design. That was actually the UI design, which is that was the most exciting data I've ever seen. And why I say that, because that data was from the Tata Memorial Cancer Hospital in Mumbai. And the data was the DNA of every individual at the hospital. So a DNA has 28 chromosomes, if I remember, 26 or 28. So every individual had that chromosome. And the project was to analyze this data and find out the patterns. Or, for example, women with breast cancer had issues with diabetes and high blood pressure. So identifying those kind of patterns and building a cohort, and how it helped the team there in Tata Memorial Hospital was that looking into these cohorts, they also were storing information about what drugs are they administering on these patients and what were the impact on this particular cohort. So you can see by just looking into the data, we were able to come up with insights to basically save lives and to do the research on a long-term basis. So I think that is when I realized this is something I do want to work long-term on. It is not about how pretty the data looks. There are many people, and I've met many beautiful and experienced UI designer and developers, but where my interest lied was in what story is the data telling. The other challenge I faced was because I was relatively new in the industry, I did not know how to communicate my blockers or how to talk about my progress. And that was because I was taking a lot of things on a personal level, as in, if I'm not able to achieve something, I did not feel comfortable speaking to my team leads or team members saying that, hey, I need help with this. I do not understand. So I was just trying to fix it all by myself. But throughout my journey, I now understand how important it is to communicate those small blockers. A blocker could be as small as we have too many meetings throughout the day and have no time to work on the actual task that we are given. Even that small thing, if you have identified from 5 other team members in your team, once you speak about it, you're not just helping out yourself, you're helping out 5 other members who might be struggling to talk. So no matter how small or the big blocker or challenge you're facing, I would always advise to have a mentor in your team. A mentor doesn't necessarily have to be your manager or your team lead or a senior. It could be someone of your age, but who you think you can trust on when you can't make decisions yourself. So that is one thing even today I'm continuously working on. Is I'm able to talk about my blockers, but I still struggle to talk about how much I've accomplished in a particular development task. I do not have a habit of boasting about it, but apparently it's needed if you want to excel. The next one, this was during my final year of my master's degree. So I was doing internship with a telecommunication industry, telecommunication company here, which is Telstra. And I joined as a grad, and my responsibilities basically was to find out from different teams what they are struggling with. And with that 6 months of time, if I can achieve it, I can take it on and I can deliver on it. I did not have any KPIs, so to say, or big goals to achieve. All they were interested on is in seeing that what skills I've got and how do I go about solving a problem. So in this one, because it was like a culture shock to me, coming from India and starting in an Australian firm, I had a lot of difficulties understanding their accents. I was very shy and very inferior about my own English. And it sort of made me not talk about what I want to talk about. So I was just being this really shy team member who no one knows about, is doing something and will finish internship in 6 months. That is how I was in those 6 months. But I could see my other team members getting accolades after accolades. They could talk whatever they could explain what they wanted to work on. They could explain challenges, and it was all going smooth for them. So even though that was the most, I would say, challenging internship or job for me, I did learn a lot in terms of how to be proactive. And this is very important when you're starting your career in a new industry or where it is your first job, to know that there is enough room for mistakes. If you choose a good company, they will let you do mistakes, but you need to be proactive in and showing your interest and what you want to do. And so I would highly encourage, when you join any new company, even if you're not grad or an entry level role there, to talk about your interests, talk about what your team members are doing. And the other thing which I learned in this experience was, I thought I really want to do networking. My plan was to do CCNA, CCNP, and CCNE, which is a networking specialization. And even before even before going to work in the IT industry, that is what the goal I had in my mind. And only through my experiences on working in these different expertise, I realized I suck at networking. I cannot do it. It brings me so much stress if I'm working on something which I do not understand. So I would say, if your goals are going to change as you go on. So you might think that networking is one thing you want to work on long term, but it might not be true. And so I would say, start experimenting, start doing those different projects, and then slowly you will realize what comes to you naturally, what you do want to excel on. And after the Telstra project, the next slide shows the different projects I've been working at Servian. So first one, and I think I'm very fortunate to be in a company which encourages people to, try out different industries. There is room for mistakes. There is support from managerial side as well. So in this first opportunity, this I think I've already covered in the point that testing documentation and doing reports are equally important than as compared to doing the coding and doing all the hard work of the entire life cycle of software development. So if you get an opportunity to work on any reporting task, for example, this first client from my consultancy, Servian, was an energy company, and they wanted to do a budgeting and forecast visualization on Tableau. The data was very simple. All you had to do is visualize it in the right way. And I thought I just have to create a graph with 2 lines and that's it. They will be able to understand. And I was so wrong, because if you don't understand the data, even if you create the beautiful visualization, it will not make sense. It was showing for a particular month what the actual money spent was and how much they had budgeted, but it did not give them a vision on how they can use this information. So whenever you do any sort of reporting task, I would highly encourage to talk to the people who are going to use the report, when you're doing the requirement gathering, ask as many questions as you want. And I can assure you that people who are in higher up in the businesses, as in managers or senior managers, they always look at technical people with a high level of admiration, because to them it is something that they cannot do. So they want to give you all the information to help them sort out their problem. So when you approach a senior manager to talk about something that you're working on, do not be afraid that what they are going to think if you ask a silly question, because it is that silly question which is solving their big problem. To highly encourage you to have an open mind and ask questions when you're doing the gathering of requirement phase of the software development. The next project was at like it, how do you call it? It was it's the Australian Post. So how the packages get delivered in Australia is either by bicycle or on a car, or it comes overseas by a plane, or they have a van where they keep the big courier boxes. So what this project was about, vehicle, it was called vehicle telematics, and telematics means the data that you get out of an artificial intelligence device. So for example, if you are doing the biometric on your phone to unlock your device, the sensor which is used on your phone is letting out a lot of information, as in storing the pixel of your fingerprint and all that. So that is what telematics is. So what I was doing in this one was that it was a very high expectation, lots of pressure, and a very small project. Just the timeline was 1 month, and we were supposed to deliver this project. And it was really interesting data, because it was about how these what do you call bikers here, they go around in the town when they are delivering the packages, and the number of accidents, road accidents they were encountering were so much high. So actually this company was facing a big risk, a big reputation risk, that whoever works with them and rides a bicycle to deliver their couriers, they meet with an accident, and if the percentage of accident is higher than 5%, that means you're dealing with, you know, reputation, that's a big reputation damage. So this project was about looking into the live data of the bicycle sensors, and for example, how hard they're pulling the brakes, or what's the angle of their bike. If it is too low, we know that maybe this person is about to fall. So looking into that telematics data to identify which one is a hazard situation. So you can send an alert to the manager and they can get the help to the cyclist as soon as they can. My learnings there was, because it was such a small project, and usually in consultancies, what happens is that you work on a particular project for about anywhere timeline ranging from 2 months to 2 years. But what is important is, as soon as consultants leave, their own team, their own permanent employees have to take over. So before leaving, you have to kind of do proper knowledge transfer to them. And what really was the biggest challenge for me was that I was able to do all the code in no time, because that is my expertise. But my challenge was that I couldn't copy paste, because this information was not out there. This was something we had built. This was something we had to teach people from the scratch. So this is where my practice of copy pasting just went straight to the bin, and I had to start developing skills of writing and articulating things very clearly so that whoever we hand it over to, they understand what they need to do. How am I doing in terms of time? Like, how much time do I have left?
$10.
10 minutes? Okay. Yeah, 10 minutes are enough. We have 2 slides to go through, 5 minutes each. All right, so the next 2 were the data engineering projects, and I can quickly complete that one, and which is the both the data engineering projects were about the data existed somewhere on the on-premise, and you had to migrate it on one of the clouds, either Google Cloud or Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure. Now, all these technical things, and because these are big products, you will always have support from AWS, Microsoft, etc. if you get stuck, even if you don't find a document or a link on the Stack Overflow to solve your problem, we always have some sort of vendor support when we are dealing with big projects like that. Then what becomes a challenge at that time is for you to be updated with what are the other products in the market. Because if you're working as a cloud engineer, they will always ask, how much is it going to take if I run this engine entire day? If I'm doing a telematics project to get all the data from these devices and to capture this data, there has to be a CPU running 24/7, and that will cost you, or that will cost the company some money. So whichever field you go to, be it you designing or web development or cloud engineering, always try to stay. It is hard to stay up to date, but as much as you can, follow those pages on the Instagram or follow those. You always get throughout the day news on the LinkedIn as a summary at the end of the day, which can keep you up to date on what you are working on. So do whatever you can to stay up to date with the products in the market, because that will what make you stand out of the crowd. Another, the before I became a team lead, the data engineering project at the Department of Health and Human Services, which is the government in Australia, that was a breakthrough for me. And there I started with just doing the reports. All I was doing was, there were reports coming from the labs in Australia saying how many COVID tests have they done, how many of them were positive, which area do they come from, how many of them are male or female, or the demographics of where are the elderlies, which are the more places, what we used to call exposed sites or the red spots. So though I was just creating charts out of that Excel reports, but that helped immensely in finding out where in the community do they need the support. So we could quickly look into the data and find out this is a particular colony where there are most elderlies. So we will have to have more test centers there, or have someone to walk in and give them the kind of support they need. And even though I was just doing the report building, every single person had to go through me to build their other report on top of mine. So you can see it sounds like not a very complicated job, but it did contribute in a big way. And that is when I started getting more recognition in terms of being a leader. So the learning would be, you can lead even when you're just another developer in the team. So always have that mindset that you are contributing in a big way, and do not hold back if you've got nice ideas or nice opinions. The last one where I'm currently at, it is a big struggle. I mean, data migration projects I've done a lot. There is some data on the on-premise. You want to migrate it into the cloud. I've done many of those sorts. But what becomes complicated now is that I'm not doing those tasks. I am delegating it to team members in my team, and some people have different values. I might believe in efficiency. I'm not looking at a perfect product. I want to see some progress, while there are other people who will wait until the product is perfect before deploying it. So I'm dealing with those kind of changes right now. And what is challenging is giving the feedback to the people who are not working up to the mark, because it is completely, I'm such a nice person, I have to completely come out of my comfort zone to tell someone, hey, you need to put in extra effort. So that is where I'm learning at the moment. So in the remaining 5 minutes, I just want to go through the quick little tips and tricks that you can start working on from now on, and these are skills which will really take you long time to develop, and you wouldn't even realize that what an expert you have become until um, you look back few years down the line. So let's quickly go through the technical ones. I would say foundational coding skills are important. Just practicing coding is important. Doesn't matter if it is object oriented, non-object oriented. Try as much as you can to not mug up the practicals. Try to do it yourself. Try to understand as much as you can, because I'm not saying that you need to have strong coding skills to excel in IT, but that is one thing which will take you ahead of the crowd. The other one is SQL. No matter which project you are doing, reporting or data engineering, if you have got the knowledge of how the data is stored, you are one step ahead in understanding if it is a relational data, this is how you can make use of it, or this is how the chart would look like. So you can start having conversation with your managers or whoever the stakeholders are in terms of, okay, if this is the data, this is what it will look like, and go from there. And the third one, I cannot emphasize enough on how important it is to know what continuous integration and continuous deployment is. It is highly admirable skill in the market. The development practices you follow once you start working in small or big enterprises is, how are you coding? If your code looks ugly, or if there are enough comments which explain the other person who would be working on that, little things like that. So I would say, like when I was in my uni, my professor wouldn't give us any marks. He would literally just mark us 0 if we have not saved our code on Git, or if we are not following a proper branching strategy to do the deployments. So if you can really work on that skill, out of those 4, even if you work on that one, it's really, really important. And fourth one is the agile way of working. It's like if I have to put Scrum in one line, I would say it is progress over perfection. What we are saying is we don't expect the entire project to be built in, let's say, 2 months. We want to do iterations every week and keep improving the development, and then get to the final product. So look into agile ways of working. Scrum, there's another Scrum sort of working model, which is called SAFE, SAFE. You can also look into that. The other non-technical skills which you can start working on right away, and why I've brought this up here is that these are really small things, but once you get aware of it, you will start noticing how your communication becomes better and better, and you will start noticing how you perceive information when other does these kind of mistakes. For example, let's talk about the communication skills first. So emphasize on articulation. Like, I know the culture in India is people do give you a lot of respect if your English is good, but I would say it won't help you in the long term. I would want you to focus on what sort of words are you using. Like, avoid speaking, instead of focusing on speaking fluent English or how your accent sound. Nobody cares about accent. And instead of focusing on how fluent your English is, focus on what words are you using to communicate what you're trying to say. Second one, complicated English. I don't know how many times I've used that sentence, but I'm pretty sure I've said it is not unimportant, at least one in this presentation. And please avoid using complicated English. If you're using words which are not used by people often around you, you're not being a great communicator, even though your vocabulary is beautiful. What I'd like you to adopt is simple English. Talk to people in English. The best way I learned how to speak good English is talking to kids, because kids don't understand anything. So you have to go to their level to make them understand what you're trying to communicate. So talk to kids as much as you want to improve your English, and use descriptive words. Like, when I only realized that when I came to Australia, because everyone else's English was perfect, and I used to use words like very hard, very good, or very useful, or very bad very often. So instead of using very hard, use words like challenging. Instead of using very useful, say something like beneficial or advantageous or convenient. Same goes for adjectives as well. Instead of using good or bad all the time, use descriptive adjectives like fabulous, or it sounds amazing, or seems interesting, and so on. And just going back to the networking skills, it's like, once you start, it's on the same slide where I talked, yeah, this one. It's the first point under non-technical, which says networking skills, as in there are meetups which happens everywhere. And I'm not saying that you have to join an IT meetup which talks about big data or things which is going on in the IT world. Just go to the meetup which you like. I am interested in learning about cats and dogs. So I go to the meetups where people bring cats and dog and just talk to people around you, or go for a meetup where they teach about growing your own garden. Whatever you like doing, go for meetups or interact with people. The more you interact with people from different cultures, different background, different perceptions, different thinking, the more you will develop your own emotional and communicating skills. I think that is it. Do we have any other slide? Oh, I will only take 2 minutes. And how much time have we got? Or are we done?
Yeah, that's moving this weekend.
Okay. So this, I really want to say, even though I work in a developed country, I do face a lot of challenges in my day-to-day life when it comes about working in an IT culture. So I just want to give you a few advice or points which can make your life easier. The first one is choose culture over your pay scale, and if your circumstances allow. As in, if you really get an offer about 2 companies, and when in the last round of the interviews, mostly they ask, do you have any questions for us? Do ask questions about their culture. Do ask them what sort of programs have they got if you are not feeling 100% mentally, or something happens to your family, if you need support, what sort of plans have they got? Because if they don't have a plan, you're gonna take up all the stress, and that is going to impact your health. So do ask them about what their culture is, and only if the circumstances allow. I'm not saying if you're really in the need of money at that point in your life, you have to go to the company which is not paying you enough, but the culture is great. The second one is learn to say no gracefully, and it is really, really difficult. I can tell you right now. I have many examples, but I'm not going to go too much detail into it. But there are many blogs and Instagram. Oh my God, it's a blessing. You can follow many Instagram pages which can teach you how to say no gracefully, or how you can decline an offer, or have or improve your negotiation skills on a day-to-day basis. Other thing, the third point, when getting back to work after a break. So life happens. You're not going to be at your best throughout. Your children will be sick. Your parents will need support. You are not going to feel 100% throughout your life. So life happens. So it is okay. Having ups and downs is perfectly okay. And you don't have to feel guilty to take break from the work and then go back to work. The last one, the most important, is that coming from our culture highly appreciates modesty. So even today, when I have to talk about my own progress, I struggle a lot. So I do have put an example there where I say, when someone praises me for accomplishing a task, I sometimes say, oh, I was able to accomplish this because this genius helped me finish it. I'm like, no, I did put in effort. I did spend like more than my working hours to get something done. So own your success, own your credit, and what that will help you do is make you look reliable and confident, and you will be able to do tasks independently. So do not undermine your own contribution towards success, and be mindful of these little loopholes you have in your thinking. And I hope this presentation helps you. Thank you so much. And if we have any questions, I'm happy to take. I've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Supriya, for that insightful and knowledgeable session. It was a great opportunity to listen to you and gain a lot of perspective about the skills we need and the opportunities in the field of data space. Now, let's move on to a short Q&A session. First, I'll be reading out the questions that have come up on the chat box in the Teams. So there's one question from Saujanya M. Butt. Good morning. I'm really interested in the design aspect of coding, like web design or anything actually designed. If I want to take it forward, would you think freelancing would be the best course of action, or joining a company to get experience first?
Okay, that's a really good questions, and what I appreciate about is that you already have got that learning mindset. So I would say first, before moving to the freelancing, or to find out if you want to work in the UI aspect in the industry, I think the first thing you would have to understand, what is your capacity right now? So you can go into freelancing and start learning about the UI projects from now on, but freelancing industry is also very demanding. So you might think that if I'm building this one particular web component or website, 1 week is enough. Or you might feel very pressured in accomplishing that particular thing, and I don't want you to feel demoralized if you start with something you're very passionate about and you're not able to accomplish it. So I would say start from having your own personal project. If you're interested in UI, maybe start with creating your own website about what your skills are. Maybe you can use that as your resume. That would be your first starting point, with having no pressure on delivering it to anybody, be it freelancer or working in a company. And by doing that, you will find out you will be able to level up your skills and then move on to freelancing or company.
We have another question. Would you still find data engineering or your career in data space was your calling if you had not been working in the companies you worked in right now?
No, I think I wouldn't say it was all luck, but I would say that you just have to believe that whatever opportunities you are dealing with or what you're getting life now, going through right now is going to pave your way into something that you like. Like, even if I wasn't working in data engineering, I'm sure I would have found out something where I would be able to derive insights out of something messy. I could have gone into becoming, a psychologist where people have messy thoughts, and I could help them clear that or help them get more clarity. So I would say just believe that the what life or what opportunities you are getting in your life will take you to where you want to be. And throughout the different work experiences, you will realize how your passion or passion changes, or you learn things and you just get to know more about yourself, and you start developing expertise.
All right, I think we'll move on to the audience. Let's ask if the audience has any questions from the auditorium.
Is there any particular region that you studied in Australia, and you think that Australia has more opportunity, like IT opportunities compared to the US?
It's a very deep question, and it has a very comprehensive response. It I would in if I really have to respond to it in one line, I would say Australia and US market, especially in terms of IT, is very different. You can say US IT market is very similar to how you have in India, that for one particular position, there are many people fighting for that job. So it is kind of pressured. The reason why I moved to Australia was just because I wanted to build my own individuality. When I first moved from central India to Bangalore, I really liked that experience of, change and dealing and dealing with people from different cultures and different background. I think that what intrigues me. So yeah, IT opportunities you'll find everywhere. Any more questions? I hope I answered some aspect of the last one.
That was it from the audience. Now I'd like to call upon Sushmita Nair to give the word of thanks.
That is Sushmita. I know, I remember her. Okay.
This engaging and informative event would not be possible without the efforts put in by many members. Firstly, I would like to thank our beloved principal, Dr. Sister Lalita Thomas, who has always been so encouraging to us all, and would like to thank Sister for giving us this opportunity. I would like to thank the faculty from Department of Computer Science, without whom this event would not have been possible. My heartfelt gratitude to our alumni, Ms. Supriya Parate, for giving us an insight into the corporate field and letting us learn and grow through this experience. I'd like to thank our technical team, Praveen sir, Richard sir, Basil sir, and Anand sir, whose immense support made sure that this program was running smoothly. Special thanks to Suhana for designing the brochure. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our students, both online and offline, for their wonderful cooperation and enthusiasm that made this event a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Sushmita. And thank you.